I recall many years ago, I read a beautiful article. It was a research finding which said that out of 100 things which happen in our lives, which we are not happy about, which hurt us or put us into grief, 90% are man-made and 10% are nature-sent. If that be it, what we got to do with 90% which are our creations, and what do we do with those 10% which are nature-sent? I think that's the issue. I am on that 10%. How do we respond to that 10% which are nature-sent, like earthquakes, cyclones, floods, fire, which is not our creation, but it's happened, like maybe through lightning, a serious accident, or even a pandemic. What's happening around? What do we do? How do we respond? We can't prevent this 10%, but how do we respond to this 10%? What do we do with this 10%? Do we start crying and give up and surrender our lives? Or do we take life into our hands, take charge of our lives, and take charge of those around us? What is it that will ensure us against such a calamity? Is our response, is removal of our ignorance in a situation like this. What do I do? What can I do? What all can I connect with when such a calamity happens? A collapse of a house. We're not prepared for that. We in the civil defense, or the whole civil defense movement, is all about educating us and preparing us for our first response. Whoever we be, wherever we be, whatever we have in our own hands, whatever is with us or around us, begin with ourselves. Maybe nothing in our hands, no tools, but what do we do? Do we have it in our heads? Who do we connect? Do we know how to use local resources, whatever we have? Do we know how to mobilize people? Do we know how to seek help? That's the key of this whole civil defense movement. And I do believe that every citizen of this country, if it was mentally oriented towards personal defense, civil defense would provide social defense, would provide an army of men and women as citizens. They needn't wear khaki like mine, but they could be in khaki without being in khaki. I think that's what it is about, is how do we initially respond to tragedies. And we've seen many already which have gone by. A recent earthquake, the tsunami, the cyclones. So it all depends where we are situated, whether we are within a building, whether it's night, whether it's day, whether it's early hours of the morning, whether it's on a seaside, whether it's on a high-rise building, whether we are on the roadside, whether we're caught in a flood, the way what happened in Bombay. So I think we're talking about preparation. We're talking about removal of ignorance. We're talking about a spirit of help. We're talking about spirit of never say die. We're talking about saving lives. We're talking about strengthening our society. We're talking about strengthening of our defense systems, which are called civil defense. So I think you don't have to necessarily have a tag of a member of a civil defense to provide social defense. Point is, we got to have it in our heads and our hearts to be defending our own selves and defending those around us. It's saving lives. You live once. You reborn, that's another life. The point is, we all live once, and let's live to the fullest with a life of gratitude, with a life of joy, with a life of safety, with a life of great deal of happiness and giving. That's what the CD-ROM or this training is all about. Please use this adequately. Spread this message around to be socially prepared to prevent further grief or agony and to save human life, which is very, very precious.